How's it going, people? How's it going? Welcome back. Thank you for coming to the channel. Thank you for subscribing. I appreciate you. This video, if many of you heard, it's been in the tabloids and it's been in the media, especially the past 48 hours, about correctional officers who beat to death a prisoner in Marcy Correctional Facility by the name of Robert Brooks. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that in a brief video. I was never in Marcy Correctional Facility, but I was directly across the street in a facility called Midstate Correctional Facility. And Marcy always had a reputation for the officers being abusive. There's quite a few facilities that have that reputation, and they can be abusive in any facility. But Marcy Correctional Facility had the reputation for officers who were abusive to the prison population. So Robert Brooks was beat to death on December 10th by approximately 14 correctional officers, 14 on one. Okay. Robert Brooks was serving 12 years. A black man serving 12 years for stabbing his girlfriend. And he was, I think, 2017. He may have been convicted in 2017. And he was transferred to Marcy Correctional Facility just a day or two prior to the incident happening. So I would like to find out why he was transferred from whatever facility he was in. Because if he was transferred with a bad wire, and what that means is the facility that sent him to Marcy may have sent a message that he had a problem with officers, or the officers didn't like him, and that message traveled with him. I'm just speculating. That message traveled with him to Marcy, and then the Marcy correctional officers may have gotten their payback on Mr. Brooks. These were 14 officers that did this to him. There's a video online. You can see the video online. And part of these officers were the beat up squad, what they call the beat up squad. And the beat up squad, there was one of them in Attica too. They have different names, are a group of officers that are known to beat up prisoners. You know what I mean? They don't tolerate anything at all. It may be the slightest of infractions, and these officers decide to beat prisoners up for those infractions, which is not only wrong, it's violent and it's against the law. They do it all the time in many facilities. The important thing here is that he was handcuffed. See, this prisoner was handcuffed in the hospital when they did this to him, or in the infirmary. And there is no excuse for beating to death a handcuffed prisoner. There is no excuse. If a prisoner is not handcuffed, then maybe there could be some justification. The officer says, listen, he attacked us. I was in fear for my life, or he was beating me up, or he had a weapon, or he's a violent felon and he's attacking me, and I had no choice but to defend myself, and I had to take his life during the course of that, right? Then it could become justifiable when you look at circumstances. It's of course possible. I've seen prisoners attack officers with a knife, and in that case, the officer has the right to do whatever he has to do to defend himself. I got you. But not a handcuffed prisoner. There's no exception right there. He's handcuffed behind his back. He's no threat. There's 14 officers in the room. They could have overpowered him, held him down anytime they wanted. They were kicking him in the genitals. They were kicking him in the stomach. They were kicking him in the face. They were punching him in the face. There was also sergeants, which is a rank above the officer, in the room at the time that it was taking place. They didn't do anything to intervene. There was a nurse, at least one nurse known to be in the room. She did not do anything to intervene. These people need to be held liable as well. They need to be charged with accessory to murder. Anyone that put hands on them, in my opinion, should be charged with murder. Anyone who was in the room and just watching it transpire should be accessory to murder, because they were an accessory. They were there and they didn't do anything to stop it at all. And they had an obligation to stop it, because anyone that works in the hospital and all the officers, right, they are supposed to protect and serve the well-being of even the prisoner. But they didn't do this. There's 4 lawsuits that I know of already against these officers that beat Robert Brooks to death. They already have 4 prior lawsuits. They've done it before. They've done it many times before. 28 prisoners were killed in 2022 from officers. 28 in that year. And 50 more that were said to be accidents, right? So I never talked much of this about in my videos. You know, I try and stay calm a little bit, right? And I said that you can meet some good officers along the way. There's always a few good officers along the way, but they get a gang mentality. You know what I mean? And they start treating prisoners in ways they would never treat them if it was a one-on-one situation, right? And you encounter this all the time in the Department of Corrections. I've encountered many officers like that, right? And I try to. They think they're a tough guy, and they disrespectful, and they abuse the inmates verbally. They abuse them physically. They abuse them mentally. They abuse them emotionally because they've been given a position of power, and they look at the prisoner as a piece of shit. Okay, and I can and in all defense, prisoners committed a crime, whether they pled guilty, whether they were found guilty, they're doing their time. They committed their crime and they're doing their time. And the people in authority abusing their authority only creates animosity in the prisons. That's all it does. That all it does is make a man want to get out of prison and strike back. But it also teaches them that those in authority are full of shit. There's no other way to look at that. You say, what, they incarcerated me for breaking the law, right? They incarcerated me for breaking the rules of society. And now I come into the prison system and the people in authority are breaking the rules themselves. They're breaking the laws themselves. So what does that teach the group of prisoners that are in there, right? It creates animosity. It makes them want to strike back, right? And there's, it's uncalled for, right? The correctional officers need much better training. They need much better social skills. As I've said in another video, a lot of these prisons are built in the middle of farmland. In New York State, they're in upstate New York, where these people were employed as farmers, a lot of them, before the prison was built in the community, which then employed the men and women of the community. So before, and my point is this, is that before that they were farmers. And what type of interactions did they have with the majority of minorities from Brooklyn, the Bronx, Queens, Harlem? Now they have all these people coming from the 5 boroughs. They're given power over them, right? They see them as pieces of garbage. And when you study psychology, as I said many times, this is a dangerous scenario that gets created. The officers do this all the time. I had an officer do it to me, a piece of shit officer in Attica Correctional Facility, right? He used to mess with me all the time, not just me, with everyone. He did stupid stuff too. He had no brain. He would pull the pillow out from under your head while you were sleeping and laugh about it. He'd constantly make derogatory comments about prisoners. He'd search your cell and rip it apart, unnecessarily rough, throwing everything around for no reason. He searched your cell when you weren't supposed to have your cell searched, just because he felt like doing it. He planted weapons on people. He would get can tops from tuna fish cans, fold them and plant them in your cell. So this guy's messing with me, right? This guy's messing with me a few times, a couple of incidences, you know, and I was getting tight. I was getting fed up with it. And you know, one day I was on the phone with my wife who was dying of cancer. This is the straw that broke the camel's back with this officer. He was my company officer, so I was subjected to him all the time. He worked the company that I locked in, you know, and this is Attica was real serious. If you touch an officer, they'll possibly kill you. You know what I mean? You might not survive, right? And I'm on the phone with my previous wife who's passing away from cancer. She's in the hospital. I'm talking to her, and I'm on the phone crying. And this officer starts messing with me while I'm on the phone. He's taking his nightstick and poking me. And I turned around. I told him, "Yo, stop touching me right now. I'm on the phone, man." He keeps messing with me and keeps messing with me, right? So I got to hang up the phone and go down to my cell. You know, I go down to my buddy Louis' cell and I'm I'm talking to Louis about this officer. I'm like, yo, listen, this guy keeps messing with me. I'm going to lose control on him. I says, he's really driving me crazy. And as I'm talking to Louis, the officer shows up behind me and pokes me with the nightstick again. Well, at that point, I turned around, I grabbed the officer, pulled him inside of the cell, slammed him on the bed, put my hand on his neck, and I told him, stop fucking with me, man. Louis is screaming, not in here, not in here. He don't want it happening in his cell, And I told the officer, I said, listen to me right now. And I was looking him dead in his eyes. I said, I'm telling you right now that the prisoner officer thing is going to go out the window. You understand? Like, I'm going to treat you like I would treat someone on the street before I was incarcerated. So I'm telling you right now, if you ever harass me again, if you ever touch me again, prisoner officer thing doesn't exist anymore. I said, and I'm going to fucking kill you. You understand me? Don't touch me again. Don't harass me again. Don't bother me again. That guy never said 2 words to me ever again. You have officers like that purposely go out of their way to harass people and make their life hell, and these guys are trying to do their time. A lot of them are trying to do their time. So, and which brings me back to Robert Brooks. I'm sorry for getting hyped up on the story, but like I said in my videos, I never really talk about how abusive they could be. And they are. There's a lot of them like that. They get together and they abuse prisoners. They talk to them. They say clearly, in our eyes, you guys are pieces of shit, right? So forget about the rehabilitation in there, right? Or forget about examples, them setting examples about how to live the right way or do the right thing. Forget about them setting examples about following the law, because they don't follow the law in there. They don't follow the law in there. They steal from you too. Let's say your family sends you packages from the street, and you get packages from the street, and your family may mail you 2 cartons of cigarettes. $100 in change for a carton of cigarettes. You go down and pick it up, 1 carton's missing. Because the correctional officers smoke too. So they just tax you. They just take your shit, right? They see food that you get in the package. They take some of your food. Not all of them are like that. I am intelligent enough to know that everybody in the world is an individual. There's some officers that would never do that. I don't know what the percentage is. Do we say 50-50, 60-40? I don't know. But there's a lot of officers that do that. And when they get together in that gang mentality, they beat these guys up. I watched them kill people in Attica. I watched them kill people in Sing Sing. I watched them break bones, put people in the hospital. And I'm not talking about guys that maybe deserved it or that were looking for it. I'm talking about guys that were just doing their time, and these officers wanted to have fun. These officers wanted to act like they were tough in front of their fellow officers, right? And the sad part is that a lot of them got this job and they think they're a tough guy all of a sudden, because now they're allowed to carry a gun. Now they have power over other people, And I used to, really tell them, listen, the reality is, if we were on the street, you would never talk to me that way. You would never treat me that way. I wouldn't allow you to talk to me and treat me that way, you see? But as I said, I had to play the game. Yes, sir, no, sir, yes, sir, because I knew where I was. It was their house and it was their rules. And who's going to believe the convict? Who's going to believe the prisoner? Right? And so it's really sad that they beat this guy to death. Yes, he was in prison for stabbing his girlfriend. Do you know the circumstances of that incident? I don't know the circumstances of that incident. I don't know what happened. I don't know if that was a one-time thing where he had a bad day, or he was on drugs, or his girlfriend was hitting him, his girlfriend was threatening him. I don't know. They were cheating on each other. Who knows what the scenario was on why this guy stabbed his girlfriend. But what I do know is he was doing his time, and he was handcuffed and not a threat, and these officers need to be charged with murder. And they need to do their time. They need to do their time. I'm going to read something for you. I have to put my glasses on right here. This is a poem that was written by my cousin, right? Who is incarcerated in the state of Florida, and he's on death row. Okay. And he's been on death row for almost 30 years. Okay. That's a different story. But I'm going to read you a poem that he wrote about the officers coming into the cell and killing the guy in the cell next to him because he wrote a grievance, right? There's a grievance process in prison. If you have a problem with something, the way the facility is running, you can file a grievance, and it goes to the grievance committee, and there's a hearing. But if you write a grievance against an officer, they'll come and beat you up. They'll come and plant a weapon in your cell. So you're trying to follow the rules and regulations of the facility. You're going through the grievance process. And then in retaliation, like little girls, they come and destroy your cell, take your stuff, put you on the burn, plant a weapon in your cell, or beat you to death because you filed a grievance, right? And they're really, really small-minded, really small. Let's say that you go to the package room and you going to pick up a pair of sneakers that your family sent you. Happens all the time. I'm not making this up. You go to pick up a pair of sneakers that your family sent you, and the officer tells you, "I'm sorry, you can't have these. You could either destroy them or return to sender." And you said, "Why can't I have them?" He said, "Because there's a little blue right here, a little dot of blue on the sneaker. It's not a blue sneaker. It's a white sneaker with a blue dot on it. And according to the rules and regulations, you're not allowed to have blue sneakers. But in the rules and regulations, it says that the logo, as long as it's under a 1/4 inch, it could be any color. So the prisoner is in the right." And so you say, "Okay, I'm not going to destroy them. I'm not going to send them back. I would like you to put them aside for a grievance issue. I'm going to file a grievance." And you file a grievance on the officer saying that you are entitled to those sneakers, but they won't let you have them. The officers come and beat the living shit out of you because you filed a grievance about the sneakers. They do this all the time. All the time. Let me read you this poem. It's called Dedication to Frank Valdez. My cousin wrote this. A friend of mine was slain today, beat to death in a cage. The newspapers said it was okay because he was slated to die anyway. My friend had the decency to be sorry for what he'd done, to accept his fate for his haste with a gun. My friend's name was Frank. He touched my heart, extended his hand. He slept, ate, and drank like every other man. He had feelings, hopes, and dreams that died with him amongst our keepers' angry screams. We'll teach you. We'll make you pay. Hey, society, weren't you proud of them today? Frank was sentenced to death for what he'd done, but 9 murderers stole his last breath and brutally beat him until he was gone. They'll walk away free, every one. Frank had honor, integrity, and strength, attributes his murderers lack. Now they go to any length to cover it up, and the superiors will cover their track. Many say it's all right what they've done. I say if you're one of them, then Frank wasn't the only guilty one. Frank was beat to death in his cell in July of 1999 by correctional officers. He was maced, he was stunned, and then he was stomped until he died. 9 correctional officers had a kill frenzy that broke Frank's nose, his jaw, all his ribs, ruptured his testicles, and left visible footprint trauma on his skin. Necessary force. He was already confined in a maximum security isolation cell with no property. These vicious creatures will go free, and Frank will be depicted as a demon to justify their barbarism. All 9 of those officers were found not guilty. All 9 of those officers went free, and those officers kept their job. It's a shame that they killed this guy, Robert Brooks, man. It's really sad. Nobody deserves to be beaten to death, especially when they're handcuffed.